Hey guys, it's Jamie bringing you another episode of Recovery Inspired Hope. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Jamie Tall. So today I'm doing part 2 of series Strong Women in Recovery, and I have Lindsey Sizemore here, who is an amazing speaker for recovery. Lindsey, I heard your story at ARC. That was the first time I had ever seen you, and you told your story at a celebration or a monthly something or other, and it was super, super amazing. So we're going to get to know a little bit about Lindsey today.
Hey everybody, grateful to be able to connect with you this way. Jamie, this is fun, this is exciting, and from what she told me, just the theme in and of itself is really exciting, just to highlight the fact that we are women in recovery, and you know, being able just to focus on our lived experience and knowing that it is our greatest tool, and it's just so powerful when we can come together and connect. And and then also share. I mean, that's what we're doing with her YouTube channel. We're going to be able to, you know, hopefully say something that someone that listens really needed to hear.
Absolutely. So how long have you been doing this recovery thing?
This recovery thing has been in my life for 7.5 years. And at first it was just, you know, really consisted of 3.5 years in a prison cell. So as far as being able to like live my recovery out loud the way that most people see now, that actually started about 4 years ago. And I jumped into the field, and I was able to learn about the certifications that are out there, certifications that y'all probably know about, as far as a certified peer specialist of mental health, certified addiction recovery empowerment specialist. When I heard about those certifications and the fact that I could literally make something out of a period of my life that I thought nothing good would come out of, I jumped on that because I needed to. At that point, when I got out of prison, it wasn't about, you know, what had happened. It's about what I say I'm doing and what I'm working on now. And so when I found those certifications, it really just started to completely shift and change my life, not to mention introduced me into this whole world, this whole new family of people in recovery as well. So I have been out here on that journey with everyone else, and you know, there's just no way you can do it by yourself. So I'm just grateful that I have the ability to accept that and just be a part of that life today.
So, okay, so when you were in prison, is that like where you found recovery?
Yes, so there just so happened to be a 90-day program. It's no longer, it was going on for about 10 years, and it's no longer a program anymore, which is super sad. But luckily I was able to be a volunteer. I wrote a letter, asked for if I could just volunteer. Most people are mandated to this program. I knew my charges were too bad to be mandated, so I wrote a letter just asking if I could be like their first volunteer. I really at that point had entered the system in a very traumatic place, and I had just lost my mother. She had died by suicide, and then of course I was coming from a very traumatic lifestyle into a system that I didn't know anything about. And you know, when I signed up as a volunteer for this program, you know, I really just needed someone to talk to. I needed a sounding board, you know, the officers and the people. I mean, I had been quiet for so long, and I was at a place where like I had stuff so much that nothing that was coming out made any sense, but I knew I just needed somebody to talk to. And so that's my reason behind it. It wasn't to find recovery. I had no idea that, you know, that was actually, you know, laying there in that program for me, and you know, being at such a low place, that hunger for some sort of hope. I ended up going to classes every day, and there was these women that came in, and it was like 12 steps actually. And I know that today that's like the most popular thing. That was the first time I was ever in a group. And, you know, I just, you know, I was always about evidence. You know, I didn't really believe what they were saying, or even didn't really hear much of what they were saying, but I saw that they were coming back, and I saw that they were smiling. I saw that they looked alive. I saw that they had things that I wanted. And I saw that they talked to me like a human being. And it didn't matter that I was facing 20 years in jail. It didn't matter any of that. And it was honestly, I tell people, it was the first concept of love I ever felt.
Wow.
So I equate recovery to love, you know, meeting someone right where they're at, and then being able to gain strength from each other. So yes, it was the 12 steps, and I was able to work those steps alongside a sponsor. over the first couple of years of my life. So by the time I did go to prison, I was like a full-fledged recovery cheerleader, and I was like, all about that. I was starting to, gain my self-confidence again, and and then now it's grown into something much bigger, into a much bigger world. But yeah, I had never even heard about, recovery. I'd heard about addiction, I heard about relapse, I heard about all of that and detox, because I had found myself there a few times. Yes, but I had never actually heard about recovery. So I didn't not only heard about it, but I began to feel it inside. So.
Yes, and that's so cool that you talked about that, because like I remember for me when I first came into recovery, I was like, these people surely cannot be sober because they're so happy. They're happy, they're smiling.
What's the catch?
Yeah, like, is this a conspiracy? Like, what's really going on? Yeah. It was so hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that people could actually be happy and be sober.
Yeah. And I didn't understand why you would want to talk to me. Like, I can't give you anything. And so, as I continued to like learn who I was and I started to recognize who I was all along, I knew that I knew I was right where I was supposed to be. I knew that this was actually an opportunity it was a jailhouse program in my head back then. And, for the first time in my life, I decided I was going to, do that for myself. I was going to give my all, 110%. And I guess I felt like that because, like, I had never, I felt like I had not done anything with my life up until that point. And I didn't care if, anybody knew about it. I was trying to prove to myself that I could do something. So there was a lot of, like, motivation there just to, just show myself that I could. And so even on the days that I didn't feel like it, I just was like, nope. Talk to that other part of me, and I was like, you're doing it anyway.
Yes, and you've got to find that inside, that inner strength, that inner courage. Yeah. And I feel like women just have that naturally.
Too. Yeah.
So tell me about some challenges you believe as a woman you faced in recovery that maybe, men don't have to kind of deal with.
So that is tough, that's a tough one to answer. I know that everybody's journeys can be individualized, and as a woman, I think that the whole self-esteem aspect, I think that's something that hits us a little harder than men. And when you wake up and you realize that you don't have a degree, you've got years in prison, you've got a decade worth of work employment gaps, and you don't. The rest of the world, they're already in your head judging you. So if you don't have that confidence, or you don't have people around you that also build that up, it can be hard to get up and find that motivation. It really can. And it honestly can lead, and it has led me into my own depressions. And, just being able to find my voice and being able to have positive feedback on, how to tell my story, or what stands out of that. You really have to strategically place certain people in your life that bring out the best in you. And that might not always be your family. That might not always be the person that the world says that it's supposed to be. So I think that was definitely something I needed. Another thing I'll share, and it's also emotionally related because we're women and we love hard and we feel deeply, and I've experienced heartbreak, over the 2 years ago. I probably reached one of the darkest places I had ever reached, and I'm completely sober. And there was nothing I could do except for to feel it. And you can't die, and you can't use, and you just have to be with yourself. And I remember one particular day, I did do what I was supposed to do. I called my network. I called people, and for some reason, God didn't allow anybody to answer the phone during this moment. And I remember I was having to go to this event right after, and I was supposed to put a smile on my face, but my heart had just truly been broken, and I didn't know how I was supposed to smile. And I just remember being in this moment of decision and just knowing and trusting that you just have to keep moving anyway, so I think heartbreak is something that, it can hurt more than anything that we experience.
Yes.
Whether it's just a betrayal or if it's just, that sense of not being good enough or whatever. And here you are on the rise and you're building your life back up, and then all of a sudden, you get crushed like that in some sort of way. And there is strength that comes from it, but in that moment you don't feel it. And then you won't recognize it until later. But I can personally share that experience, because that is definitely something that, as a woman, I just didn't know. And so here I am, and I'm trying to just continue to rebuild my life. And as far as I'm 32 years old, I'm single, I don't have any kids, and, they just have these ideas that you're supposed to be at a certain place at a certain period of life, and all of that is just a bunch of crap.
Yes.
I just have come to find, and I get so much peace, and I'm happy with it. Like, we're just exactly where we're supposed to be, and whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen, as long as we just show up and keep showing up, even on the days that we don't feel like it. So, and I mean, I had to work. I found exercise as a great way for me to stay, in recovery, stay strong, feel good. At first, when I went to prison, I gained like 20 pounds. Some of that I needed because I was definitely very sick. But, I had to work hard, and I had to, go out there and start running and doing stuff I didn't think I could do. And anyway, working on loving myself and my body, and it's been a journey.
I feel like fitness for me has definitely been like a pathway in my recovery. And like for me, it's like my peace time. Like I go running in the morning, and that's kind of like my time to like sit with God and like worship. And it just, it releases endorphins, and it makes you happy. And I'm also able to kind of like channel some of that energy, from like my past life. I channel that into my exercise, you know what I mean? And I'm kind of like that go hard, like it hurts so bad, but I like it.
I know all about that.
Yes.
Absolutely. I also like to write. I think I found that writing was something that helped me heal and put things in order and gain clarity while I was locked up. And so every now, I don't write as much as I did when I was locked up, but when I do write, there's something, it releases endorphins too. I don't know. And then when I'm out there running, I just pull up my notes, and I'm like writing notes down, and I'm getting so creative. And when you can have moments where you can get creative like that, wow. It's just amazing. And I usually take whatever it is I'm going through or whatever I'm thinking about, and I just set my intention for whatever I'm about to write, and I won't finish it until I've made it into something hopeful. I used to tell people, like, you can say whatever it is you want to say as long as you end it on a positive note. I know that things fit in the tractor going back and forth. You see us doing this too, but we are resilient. And
we will ignore them and just keep moving on. Perseverance at its finest.
Yes.
So tell me. Tell me a little bit about, you're talking about being like in this dark place and nobody answered the phone. Did you turn to like your higher power, or like do you have like a spiritual part that plays into your recovery?
Yes. So absolutely, I believe there is a higher power. There is a bigger spiritual sense to me. And I mean, all my beliefs have changed over time as I continue to grow and to learn. And I know that my hope is found in something that I can't even conceive. Like when I can think that, you know what, I don't have the final say. Nothing in this world has the final say.
Right.
And people in the Christian world, they say, amen. Well, God has the last amen, not us. And so that gives me hope for whatever situation I'm going through. I do believe that I'm a part of something like a bigger, greater plan. So even when things don't make sense, I like to think that I am, just a part of this play that's happening. And it's my job just to, I get to be in God's story.
Yes.
This is what we think is my story, and I'm here saying, but I get to be in God's story. And so I do these mental shifts of like gratitude and perspective changes. You can get through anything that you're going through if you just change the perspective. I also believe, like, in dark moments, like I shared a second ago, that you can, like, I can compartmentalize, like, in my brain. I will literally put that incident right over here, like, allow it to live and breathe over here in my head, and then I'll just focus on the other part of my head. So I'm basically delaying it. Like, it's there, and it's honored, and it's validated, but I will focus on something else, and I'll say, okay, I'll just give myself an hour from 8 to 9, and I'll think about that. But the other 23 hours of the day, I'm going to think about all the other things that I want to invest energy into.
Yes.
So I'm not saying I'm not going to honor it and not feel it, and I'm not going to say I'm not sad, but I am not going to give it more power by thinking about it further. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's great advice.
I think it's important that we do validate where we are.
Yes.
And by no means stuff it, but I give it permission to live in that little space. There's something about giving ourselves permission. We forget our own power. Like, okay, so I'm sad, I'm hurt, I'm going to give you permission to live right there. So be grateful that you get to live in my brain right here. And then I'm going to give myself permission to focus on it later.
Right.
So much so that I'm in control now, and I'm going to focus on this from 8 to 9 tonight. You know, and, you know, it's just about just taking back and remembering your power. You know, and I think that we're all reflections of God, so we have so much more power than we give ourselves credit
Absolutely.
to. You know?
Yes. So true. So
that's
true.
my belief.
So what would you say to a woman who's like thinking about recovery? Like, if somebody's like watching this right now and they're like, oh, I really want to get sober, but I don't know if I could do that, what would you say to her?
I'd want to know, you know, well, why do you think you can't do that? You know, try to get to that untold story a little bit. And you know, first of all, that's where I think our story comes into play. You know, and sometimes it's not even about me telling my recovery story. It's about me just talking about my life. And people are like, well, dang, how did you know, I heard that you used to be like this, but, you know, how do you have this job, or how do you have a car, or how do you, you know, how are you even here? And you just start talking about your life, and recovery is so attractive. And people all of a sudden start, you know, learning who you are, or sense your energy because you found healing and peace. And then all of a sudden they are, you know, they're asking you more and more. And that's when I think it's so crucial that we're able to just share our pathways, but also not limit it to wherever they're at, because their experiences could be terrible with what, you know, for all we know, like with what got us clean and sober. And so I think it's all about where we are in that present moment in that conversation. And then also talking about our dreams and where we're going. Sometimes when people hear our dreams and like our vision and like what we're working on, or whether it's a next trip, or I'm buying a house next year, or whatever it is that we're affirming over our life, when they hear that, they're wondering, how did she even think that was even a dream to be had?
Yes.
And then that's another doorway to talk about, you know, how awesome and unlimited recovery is. And so I would just, you know, I would take time to get to know them, you know, and see what their fears are, and to get to like their emotions, because all of that is what led to substance use and you know, challenges like that come with substance use. And you know, and then when they think it can't be done, you just share story after story after story of yes, it can. You know,
yes, absolutely.
And then just tell them there's no time limit on it. People think that it's supposed to go in a certain order,
right?
And it's not. It's not a certain order. Any day could be the day. We teach that to, you know, people in hospitals and rehabs and officers and you name it. Today could be the day. You know, and that's what we were saying at the beginning of this video. Like, maybe we're saying something to you today that whoever's watching, you know, this could be it right now. It's not supposed to look a certain way or fit a certain mold. It's just who you are, and you just start where you're at with what you have.
Yes, everybody's recovery journey is unique and different, and it is possible. I'm going from homeless to home buying. Absolutely. So that is, yes, that's awesome. It's possible. So it can happen. So thank you so much, Lindsey, for sharing with us.
Connect with us. We'd love to, you know, reach out and, you know, introduce you to whatever we know. And that's just the ticket. Just surround yourself by people that are doing it. And you can too. No doubt. Thanks for having us.
Bye. Make sure you subscribe to Jamie Tall on YouTube for more recovery-inspired hope and the next series of Strong Women in Recovery.